Okay, so this is going to be loud. I already messed this up. We have another phone here so that we can see what we look like. Okay. So this is our first. It's actually my second live stream. I live streamed during D23 when I was at home, and I had like one person on it, like max, because no one cares what I have to say during D23. I don't think you should care what I have to say in general, I guess, but.
Way better resources.
Yeah, so, like people who are actually at D23. So this is technically our second live stream.
My first.
Her first, yeah. So we're live streaming from, Mouse Hacking headquarters, which is our apartment. You can barely see Navy Pier over Emily's shoulder back there, so.
We got snow.
Yeah, it's snowing a little bit in Chicago. So, mostly what we're here to do today is just talk about our favorite rides, because someone suggested that as a topic and it sounded like as fun as anything to just kind of start this with. And the big thing that's going on right now is coronavirus is spreading more, so everyone's encouraging social distancing. The Disney parks are not quite all closed yet. Disney World is closing, is it at the end of the day today or tomorrow? I'm not sure what day it is.
Sunday.
At the end of so anyways, that's coming up, and as a result, for us, our web traffic goes down a ton, which is totally fine. It'll come back. I'm not concerned about it, but it also just means that we're not chasing the latest changes at the park. So Runaway Railway just opened, and that meant that I was going to have to be on Twitter every day, seeing what time the ride opened, how people were doing, if they were getting on and being able to get those boarding passes and all that fun stuff. But without anything going on at the parks, I don't have to worry about that. Still plenty of work to be done on the website. I'm usually doing old content, actually. I think when people think of blogging or even just running a website, they kind of think of it as just putting out new content and leaving it out there. But I actually spend most of my time maintaining posts, so probably about maybe 200 core posts that are just constantly being worked on, whether it's improving the linking of them or adding content, updating it, all that kind of stuff. So still plenty of work to be done, but not chasing that news cycle means that we have a little more time for fun stuff like this. And I guess one thing I want to point out is, even though for us, and I know for a lot of people who are changing their plans or they're not sure what's going on, for us, it feels like the world has stopped, but if you have a trip planned in 60 days, you should be getting fast passes. If you have a trip planned in 180 days, you should be getting your dining reservations. All the planning actually hasn't stopped. The system hasn't shut down or anything. I think that still, though, we're seeing a decrease in web traffic just because people, even 60 days out, don't know if the parks are going to be open, so they don't know what to expect. I like to peek at my viewer numbers, which, you know what, as long as there's even one person here, I'll keep going. But even if there's not, we'll put this on YouTube afterwards. And when we put it on YouTube, we'll probably add some pictures and some context for some of the stuff that we're talking about. Is there anything else preliminary? I mean, we have no idea what we're doing, by the way. I don't do video. I think it's a cool medium, but I mean, as you can tell, I don't even do that much Instagram. I know it looks like that, especially if you're new, because we were just in the parks. But if you look at the post dates, I don't post that often. I really only update from the parks and when other major things happen, which it's been a busy week. But for the most part, we just focus on the website. So this kind of stuff is pretty much new to us, but it's fun. It's fun to do something different, especially because, we have a little bit of extra time now. Emily still has a full-time job though, so she's just donating her weekend time. It's actually kind of awful for her to have me always wanting to do work even on the weekends, because for me every day is the same.
It's true.
But she's a trooper. Yeah, she gets to talk about Disney. That's my work. So yeah, I think that's probably enough preliminary stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to be talking about our favorite rides at every Disney park. I think for this session, we're just going to do US parks, and then we'll branch out to international, maybe in a later one. And in general, I'm expecting to do these videos, I don't know, probably not every day, because, that's a lot, but maybe every couple days, and maybe even once a week. They're probably not going to be on a schedule, but they'll go up on YouTube. you know, they'll just be kind of fun things to tune into while we're all kind of being sad about, you know, what's going on in the world and looking for a dose of, you know, dose of something else. I know a lot of people kind of rely on the influencers who are in the parks daily and posting, you know, great stuff. So you don't get to see that as much. And I wish I had more video to share with you. I don't have a ton of video from the parks, but I'll also be, you know, tracking down some vlogs that I think do a good job of capturing, you know, the parks when they're open, and I'll post links to those. I hope that, is that us buffering? Either our live stream is buffering or I don't know. So if we cut out, I'm sorry about that too. I can't really tell. So now I'm just obsessed watching this screen just kind of flicker in and out. Okay, well, we're just going to push through, I guess, so I'm sorry if we cut out. But yeah, we'll go through and we'll talk about the parks and our favorite rides in the parks. So we'll draw from here, and we won't repeat rides. So Emily gets to pick first and tell us what her favorite ride in the first park is.
Alright, this is a fun one. We're starting with Hollywood Studios, which...
This is a fun one. We're starting with Hollywood Studios, words no one has said in the past year.
There's a lot going on with the Hollywood Studios. I'm sure everyone has like a new favorite ride if you've been recently. I'm probably not going to pick one of those. So, Hollywood Studios, my favorite ride is still Tower of Terror. Not maybe super original. I do really love rides. I do like Millennium Falcon. Don't love Runaway Railway, but that's okay. But I just really love Tower of Terror. I think it's a great story. I think it's a great ride. It never gets old. You can usually get same day fast passes, so you hopefully don't ever have to wait in line. But if you do have to wait in line, the queue is great. I often have concerns about the dust being real or fake, but other than that, no real complaints about that one.
So Tower of Terror, I'm a big fan of. I'm gonna compare this stuff to our. We have a couple relevant posts. I have a best Disney rides around the world post, where I pick a couple rides from each park, and in each park around the world and talk about them. And then I also have a post ranking every ride at Disney World, and our Disneyland and Disney California Adventure posts also rank the rides there. And Tower of Terror comes in at number 3 in the Disney World ride rankings. So yeah, I'm gonna name a different ride after this, but I did want to talk about Tower of Terror for a couple more minutes. So part of what I really like about Tower of Terror, and this will probably come up a little bit more for some other rides, is that it starts before you're on it. So it's at the end of Sunset Boulevard, and literally you can walk, I don't know the distance, but you know, maybe within less than 100 yards of it, and you'll hear people screaming on it. And if you just sit on those benches over there by the restrooms, you'll see families walking up to it and they're reconsidering their decisions. They're trying to convince people to go on it. So this experience starts before you even get on the ride, which is something that I think is really great. I mean, the ride, it's a thrill. It's, you know, it's just a great ride in that regards, but also the fact that it starts even before you're on it, I think is a really important part of the experience for me. And I think it took me a while to understand the ride. One of the things you might not realize is, so if you listen to the things that the cast members say on the ride, it's really confusing, and like you're going to the Twilight Zone and they're talking about, you know, they're still in character and showing you your rooms. And, you know, that's because once you realize that the cast members, you know, they're playing the employees at the hotel, or I don't know if they're ghost employees, whatever the case is, but they still think that they're just showing you to your room. They don't realize that you're, you know, going to the Twilight Zone. Why they're sending you through the boiler room, that's not really a great thing for a hotel to do. Like, I would not be happy if this happened to me at a hotel.
Elevators down.
Yeah, that's true. They did have some elevator difficulties. So, so anyways, you know, you wind up going through the boiler room. But other than that, you know, small things, pretty cool. And the gift shop, of course, is the hotel gift shop. So just the whole story kind of from beginning to end is really great. It's a classic ride. you know, I think even some of the places it's been duplicated. I didn't think the Disneyland one was as good as the Florida one. I don't think the Paris one is as good. I actually do like, and we maybe talk about it. I like Guardians of the Galaxy out in California now though. So that's Tower of Terror, man. So that leaves me. Go on.
The only I'll add to at the start that like I try not to get too focused on nostalgia because I think it's a little bit overrated. But like you pointing out like the families going in, like that's one of my like the very few memories that I do have going to Disney World as a kid is I just remember being terrified. But I only went because I wanted a picture because it was when the photos on the rides were like such like a hot commodity. Because like my parents would never buy them for me, love you mom. But they said they'd buy me that one, so I like had to go on it, and I was so scared. And then I went on it, and someone like flicked off the camera, and so I couldn't get the photo, and so I had to go on it again. And I just remember like that second time being like, I got this, like I'm like invincible, and I still get nervous every time. The first one of the trip. So.
Very nice. So that leaves me with the rest of Hollywood Studios. I mean, obviously, I put Tower of Terror at number 3 in my ranking post, so I probably would have picked it. So yeah, I'll say Rise of the Resistance. Why not? We were at Rise the first day. We got on the ride the first day. Excuse me. And it was really good. The cast members were so intensely into it. Every single one of them along the way was perfect. And I don't want to spoil Rise, but it is, you know, from early on in the queue or experience, or however you want to think about it, it's a very immersive thing, and how the cast members conduct themselves is really important to the experience. And I don't want to be, you know, just another, you know, negative Disney person. Once things got tough with that ride and it started having operational issues, just the whole tone of it did sort of struggle. I know a lot of people who have gone on it numerous times and say that they've had an amazing time every time. I've had at least one just awful experience. That was, but we'll write that one off for technical difficulties. But also, just as the pressure on the cast members gets to be more, it's hard for them to maintain show and efficiency and all that. And so I have seen cracks develop in it. I'd like to, you know, really, I'm not going to overly criticize the ride until it's consistently running in a way that, you know, I get to go on it whenever I want and see how I feel about it. All that kind of aside, it's a fantastic ride. It's really the pinnacle of what dark rides are capable of. There's a couple screens in there. It's, you know, not too much if you're a person who is completely anti-screen. But yeah, there's screens in Tower of Terror too.
I know, but it's not yours.
Yeah. So there's a couple screens in there, but for the most part, it's a very practical effects ride, and the scale of it, the scope of it, the size is both, I mean, metaphorically and physically, and all of that is unbeatable. So yeah, I'm happy to say Rise of the Resistance. I would like to see it operating consistently well, but right now I think it stands as kind of the pinnacle of what we can expect from dark rides.
And they do some really cool new things, like,
yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of like potential with a lot of the technology.
Yeah, and particularly if you've never been on a trackless dark ride, then that's going to be a new experience. Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is also a trackless dark ride, so probably depending on which of those you go on first, if you've never been on one, and coming in presumably maybe, we don't really know, but Remy's Ratatouille Adventure Summer 2020, that's also trackless. So kind of depending on which of those you go on first, it'll probably impact your experience because you'll be a lot more blown away by the technology and the way the cars move and that sort of stuff. But yeah, in general, fantastic ride. So I think that's it. Let's just real quick see what the list says. So the list actually has Rise of the Resistance right behind Tower of Terror, as you might expect, yeah. And then if I look up Hollywood Studios on our best Disney rides around the world, Tower of Terror, and Rise of the Resistance, with an honorable mention to Star Tours.
At least we're consistent.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes the rest of the way.
We didn't cheat. We didn't look at the
Yeah, I haven't looked. I mean, I did write them, and I do edit the posts, you know, pretty frequently. So.
I also have reviewed them, and for the most part, agree. I think there's a couple that I would rank slightly different.
I get Disney California Adventure. Okay. Well, so this. Okay, so there's really two good contenders in Disney California Adventure, and I think. So personally, I do want to say Radiator Springs Racers. Is that bad though? Because then you're gonna pick Mission Breakout, right?
I mean, that would be awkward though, because I just picked
Could you
Tower
just
of
talk,
Terror.
I'm gonna make you talk. If you're gonna pick it, I'm gonna make you talk about the
Okay.
differences between them. So
Okay.
I'll take Radiator Springs Racers. I had luck with the draw. So Radiator Springs Racers in Disney California Adventure is basically the same ride system as Test Track if you've been on it, but themed to cars. So Lightning McQueen and all those fellas and gals. There's a lot to like about it. I mean, I always think about these two rides as Radiator Springs Racers shows you how to take what's a really good technology and turn it into a really good ride. I don't think Test Track is that great of a ride. I think it's really fun. It's got a thrill element to it, and obviously if you're at Epcot, you're gonna go on it. But I think that Radiator Springs Racers really shows how to take that, and it doesn't. It's not about having the IP and the story. Say a lot of people think that it's just because it has cars that it's better. I don't really think that's the case. I just don't think Test Track has essentially no story. So I think just putting a story on that is important. And Radiator Springs Racers does it really well. It's also just a gorgeous ride. You get to race
So
at
pretty.
the end. It's beautiful from start to finish. So, I think that's a pretty easy pick for the best ride at that park, and maybe even the best ride at that whole resort. And that might even be better than Rise of the Resistance. I don't know.
It's a really good ride.
Any additional Radiator Springs Racers commentary?
It's one of the two attractions I think I got off and just thought it was the greatest thing ever. That one, and we'll probably get to the other one, but it was just so I just love the beginning and driving and seeing the waterfall and the music, and it's just really, really good one. So I don't have anything great to add, but I think it's a great pick. And I hate when it's down in the morning and I have to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Although I do usually fast pass it. Okay, so
Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout.
Guardians of the
You have to
Galaxy
forgive
Mission
Emily.
Breakout.
She's not constantly buried in Disney stuff, so she doesn't know.
This
all
was
the
my
full
biggest
names.
concern about
I think
this.
it's a good gap though. I mean, because it also just means that she's a little more on the nose with what I think a lot of you are thinking and wondering about the parks on a daily basis, because she's not always buried in it like I am. So
This is true.
I may help her with the full names of things every
Thank
so
you.
often. But Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout.
So was very nervous the first time because
You're very nervous every time you go on Tower of
Okay,
Terror.
so I was
too,
nervous
so-
about the ride itself, but I was really nervous about the whole concept of Guardians because I love Tower, and I was like, I can't believe they would destroy Tower of Terror and replace it with Guardians of the Galaxy. Trust Joe Brody, so I was sure it was probably going to be great, but I went in thinking there was no way it was going to be nearly as good. And I'm pretty sure the first few times I rode it, I was pretty sure it was better. So, also Tower has a great queue with a good start to your storyline. The ride is less looming because it's around the corner from the main street, so it doesn't have that. But the queue is all part of the story. I think that's really great. I loved some of the components of the elevator scene of that one versus Tower of Terror. Not the elevator scene, but without any spoilers. The office.
Oh, the library.
library.
The library.
So I love the library scene.
The library next to the boiler room.
Yeah, next to the boiler room. But the ride itself, I think, just has a different vibe because it's more energy versus fear-based. The music, I think, does a really great touch. Someone pointed out to me that, but I hadn't noticed this before, it does change based on what song you get. So I think some songs are a little bit more fun than others. But they just did a really great job and it's just I don't know that I still think it's better than Tower of Terror, but I definitely think it stands on its own. I don't hate it. I love it, actually. What I miss.
No, I think you hit the big thing, which is I think that the big difference between Mission Breakout and Tower of Terror is that Tower of Terror is all about fear, and Mission Breakout is all about fun. That is a fun use of that. To continue kind of my talking about the technologies and different implementations, that's a really fun use of that technology. Both, I mean, just in the way that the vehicle moves too, but also, you know, obviously in what you're watching as you're going through it.
Yeah.
I think I still probably lean towards thinking that Tower of Terror is the better ride, but you know, Mission Breakout is a fantastic ride. So let's see what we have in the ride rankings for California Adventure. Yeah, as expected, Radiator Springs Racers followed by Mission Breakout, and then if we go over to Best Disney Rides Around the World, California Adventure, same two. So no big surprises there. Honorable mention goes to Soarin'. Soarin', I don't really distinguish between too much. I know a lot of people in California do. Do you prefer Around the World or over California?
I like Around the World because I don't like the smells on California. I don't think the smells are as
Everyone in California
potent or
just
as
tuned
beautiful.
out. Like,
Sorry.
You're killing our
It-
half of our remaining traffic. Is everyone from California just leaving because you don't like how the state smells? You like how Florida smells?
No, I like how the state. It's not in Florida. It's only in Florida at the end. I think there's too much evergreen. There's like 3 different evergreen scenes.
Yeah.
Fragrance, but they're both great. I love California.
I think Around the World has too much. Soarin' Around the World, I think, has, once you notice the CG, it's really hard to unnotice it. So,
Yeah.
But it does get an honorable mention in our list. So, your turn. Park number 3. We're gonna be here for a while.
I can talk faster.
No, it's fine.
Okay, we'll stick with California. We'll try to earn back the love of the people. We've got Disneyland.
Disneyland, the original.
The original. I actually went to Disneyland long before you did.
Spoiler alert.
Not to brag or anything.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that I really appreciated it more recently. Not that that's part of his story. So Disneyland, my favorite ride is actually the ride that I often forget to remember. When we draw like maps of the park or we're trying to remember our favorite rides, for some reason I can never remember this one because it's kind of, the ride itself is really back there. But Indiana Jones Adventure is actually my favorite ride. I don't really love the fact that it takes so long to get on the ride, especially with Fast Pass. That's my only complaint about the ride. But I just think the story on that ride and how beautiful it is and how like it like really brings out those like there's like a real adventure in there. Like there's the first time I was really like, you think it's just gonna be a dark ride, but it's really, and I also pictured it being a lot like Dinosaur because I had heard the rumor that it's like the same ride but with different backdrop, and it's definitely not. But it's just really fun, really exciting. I keep picking rides that probably have really low height limits, so everyone loves it.
I think Indiana Jones has a pretty decent height requirement.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I guess that's all I have to say about it.
It does have, the track is mostly identical to Dinosaur. It's not completely identical. You can find pretty quickly the actual maps of them, but they're very different rides.
Yeah.
I mean, for instance, I think one of the big differences is that when you're in Indiana Jones, the scope of the space is made obvious to you. You can see a lot of stuff at once. Dinosaur, for the most part, unless you're kind of turning your head at awkward
it's brighter,
angles.
so you can actually see more versus Dinosaur's so dark.
Dinosaur's dark, and you're mostly surrounded by stuff the entire time.
So
Yeah, I think Indiana Jones Adventure is a fantastic ride. So I'm torn. There's so many different ways to go with Disneyland. It's got the classics. I mean, Pirates of the Caribbean and Haunted Mansion are both really big contenders, and I can't imagine, getting through this conversation without talking about them.
I do really like their pirates.
I'm gonna put Rise of the Resistance to the side because we already talked about that. and Smuggler's Run isn't really even in the conversation. Something like Mr. Toad's Ride, I'm a big fan of the old dark rides. I love that for the most part you can get on them with pretty short waits, and I think they're fun. There's a scene in Snow White's Adventure, where the queen transforms before your eyes. You see her in the mirror, and then she turns, and I just love that. I'm sure it's a simple effect, but there's just something about it. Sometimes you just see effects and you just think that they're clever, and that's one of the things I love about that ride. But I will go with the Haunted Mansion. It wouldn't be right to not talk about the Haunted Mansion in this.
One of these are
in this video. Yeah, there's a book, these books that convey authority and understanding. One of them is about the Haunted Mansion. So Haunted Mansion, it's got so much history that I think that most people who know any amount of Disney Parks history probably know most about the Haunted Mansion and how long it took to get built. And
I didn't realize how long it took.
Yeah. And Walt put these conflicting personalities in charge of it to try and get a perfect product. I don't know, to put so that it wasn't all fear and it wasn't all fun. And you see that in the ride. It does have a narrative where first the ghosts aren't there, and then you go through the seance and the ghosts appear. But so much of it is just kind of left to you to figure out what you think is going on and what these ghosts are doing here. What I like most about it, and this was completely unintentional, but I talked about how in Snow White's Adventure, there's that one gag, that one trick that I really like. Haunted Mansion is just filled with those. And this is technology that's way old at this point. I'm getting old, so I can say that. I hope I didn't offend anyone. It's technology that's old at this point. I mean, a lot of it way predating the ride too, but there's just so many effects. I mean, you see the floating head, you see all the Pepper's ghosts. I like the shadow playing the piano is really cool.
I still don't know how the bust's moving works.
See? I mean, there's so much of that stuff that you just don't. That even though it's probably pretty simple, quote unquote, overall. I mean, when you compare it to some of the stuff that modern rides do. But it's got so many of those little tricks. And I think that's just something I can really appreciate. It's got a fantastic song to it. And the song kind of carries you through in different ways. You hear it in different tones and different speeds and different volumes and all that. So I obviously I have to pick Haunted Mansion. When I rank the Disney World rides, I rank Haunted Mansion quite high, although maybe it's even higher than I thought. Yeah, I actually rank it as number 2 in Magic Kingdom. We're in Disneyland right now. So, yeah, I mean, do you have anything to add?
No, I think it really grew on me though. I feel like I always remember liking it, but I feel like the more I learn about it, the more I find things that I really like. And I like attractions that grow with you and continue to give you something without just that adrenaline or that thrill.
She's trying to earn California people back by saying every 3 words.
Sorry. Thank you. That's all I got.
Yeah. I don't know who says and a lot. That's who I'm trying to win back. So our top Disneyland list has Indiana Jones Adventure, actually followed by Rise of the Resistance. It kind of surprises me that I put it in second. Just ahead of that Haunted Mansion, Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride comes in at number 5. So that is probably my favorite, traditional dark ride. And it might be my favorite dark ride, even ahead of some of the others, but when you're making these official lists for your website, sometimes you have to...
That says a lot about you. It's a dark ride. It's a dark ride.
Yeah, it does. It does have some dark components. Okay, so we'll move on to the next one. Where's the back? I hope someone's still watching. I actually turned off the phone so that I can't see what the viewer count is at. Oh, I get Animal Kingdom. So Emily's got an Animal Kingdom sweater on. Animal Kingdom is my favorite park. I have a post about why I think it's Disney's best park. I will say I've been coming around to Magic Kingdom a little more recently. But I'm a big fan of Animal Kingdom, not just because of the rides, which there honestly aren't as many as there could be, but also because of the quality of the entertainment, particularly the Streetmosphere. I was really disappointed to see awkward. I was really disappointed to see Borodika get cut this past year, but you know, we go on and we're talking about rides here today. So Animal Kingdom. Yeah, I'll do the easy one. I'll take Flight of Passage. So Flight of Passage, Avatar Flight of Passage, in Pandora, is an interesting ride for a lot of reasons. First of all, it's such a dive into screens and screen technology, which was trending for a while, particularly over at Universal. And you know, it's similar to Soarin', and Soarin's also a big screen ride.
For Soarin' with 8 screens, it's weird how much I love it.
Yeah, and so you might not even realize that it's, you know, another screen ride. But it's so one of the questions I got from someone this morning was, you know, rides that are repeatable, and I find the emotion of Flight of Passage so repeatable. If you get me on that ride when I'm you know, tired because I'm up for rope drop at like 5 a.m. for some ridiculous reason, even though no one's at the park for another 2 hours.
For the fans.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I'm tired, so I'm, you know, more emotional than usual, and I'll get teary-eyed like first ride of the day riding on Flight of Passage. The emotional resonance of that ride I find super repeatable.
Yeah.
And it's so well directed. Part of what really appeals to me about it in terms of the park is how much of Animal Kingdom is about the relationship between humans and nature and humans and animals, and of course kind of the one big no-no in modern human-animal relations is you're really not supposed to ride them or, you know, do stuff like that because it's generally not considered a great thing to do, and so obviously they couldn't do it in Disney Park, but this gives you the opportunity to do that. It, you know, puts you on a Banshee and gives you that experience of, you know, flying through Pandora.
And I like that even in the story, it still doesn't think that humans should ride animals because they do it through the Na'vi. So I think that even just reinforces that concept.
So I think it's interesting that they found a way to kind of close this gap and to give humans that experience, where, yeah, I think that's, and it's part of that story of the park. It's about, you know, humans and nature and humans and animals. So I found it it's a really great way to wrap up the story of the park in that way, and it's obviously just a fantastic ride with tons of emotional resonance. So
yeah, that ride and Radiator Springs Racer, which I already said, were the two that I got off and was just like, this is the best ride ever. And I still feel very strongly about it.
Yep.
So, love FOP, but also just a really big fan of the Safari. I think I definitely like it more than you do. It's just always really high on my list. I like it because, I like it for so many reasons, but I really like that it's always different, and you can see different animals every time. What are they called? What's your driver's name?
Guide?
Your guide.
Driver?
I like that they always bring a different element to it. I love that the animals are wild. I just love everything about it. I really recently, since some experience we've had, I've really been into the rhinos, so I really love seeing the rhinos. It's just a really beautiful attraction, and I like that it's your best, way to, I think, engage in animals in their natural habitat for people who can't go to Africa. So it's a really close second for me as someone who hasn't actually been to Africa.
You've been to Africa.
Right, I haven't been on a real safari.
Yeah, I agree. Kilimanjaro Safari is a fantastic ride, unique experience.
You can't do that, really.
No, and it is, I mean, it's pretty long, which is good and bad. Typically, you know, I talk about getting there right at the end of rope drop, because once you're in line for that ride, all your short waits are going to disappear by the time you're off of it. But that's okay. It's a fantastic ride.
It's impressive every time. Every time I see the giraffe.
It's different every time.
Still
Yeah.
very cool.
Something gets close to your vehicle pretty much every time, and it's always an adventure.
Yeah. It's a good one.
Oh, and let's see. I'll look up real quick. Let's see what rides I list. Animal Kingdom. So I actually have Expedition Everest and Kilimanjaro Safaris with an honorable mention of Flight of Passage. We should talk quickly about Everest. I don't want to spend too much time. Everest is another ride that really imposes on you from the beginning. If you're walking from Discovery Island in Animal Kingdom over to Africa, which is kind of a natural route to go, or maybe from Pandora, if you pass by the island and go into Africa that way, you can see Everest in the distance from the bridge. And it's another one that as you're walking through Anandapur towards Everest, you'll see it, you'll get closer, and you'll hear the people screaming. I mentioned in the stories earlier today that, in case you didn't know, there is another mode for Everest where the Yeti is supposed to actually swipe at you, which currently he just has a strobe light effect. It's Disco Yeti, and I explained why that's such a challenge for them to repair and why it won't be probably happening anytime soon. But yeah, Everest, it does make number one on another list, and I'm sure I rank it very high in my ride rankings. So it's definitely up there. I think it's really tough to pick between these three rides because you've got Everest, which is a traditional great roller coaster. You've got Kilimanjaro Safaris, which is a unique experience, unlike pretty much anything you'll find in any theme park in the world. And then you've got Flight of Passage, which is both an amazing ride and fits so well into this narrative of Animal Kingdom.
And up until 2016, I probably would have picked Everest over Safaris. I was talking about this earlier. There's a moment in Everest where it just gets me sick every time. And I think it's just me getting old. So anyone younger than 30 probably would pick Everest over the Safari. Moving on to Epcot. Epcot's tough right now. But my favorite ride has not changed, and it's been my favorite ride probably since we started going, or probably since like 2016-ish, but I really love Living with the Land. And I know it's not one of the top 3 attractions, it's not going to be a ride they rope drop, but it is just beautiful. I love learning about nature. I think it's so cool. After recently going on the behind the scenes tour and learning even more about nature, I just thought it was fantastic. And it's probably really another old lady ride to pick, but it is tough to beat. You're in the middle of a park day, you take your 20-minute boat ride through the land, you see the plants, you learn about new growing methods, and it just brings me a lot of joy. I think it's really great. And it's on par with Epcot. I learned something.
Yeah, I agree. I like that. It's a throwback to this idea of bringing education into a theme park, and that not everything has to be about. I don't want to say it doesn't have to be about fun, because I still think maybe it qualifies as fun, but it doesn't have to be about thrill and excitement. It can be, it can be fun and educational in that way. So I really like Living with the Land too. And sort of along a similar track, my favorite ride at Epcot is Spaceship Earth. Which now we know as of May is going to be getting significant work done, and that might mean that I know you've probably already gone on it for the last time in its current iteration. Depending on how things go, I might not make it back there to go on it in its current iteration either. But it's been through a lot of transformations over the years too. But Spaceship Earth, currently takes you on a journey through the history of communication. I think the animatronics in it are great. They're not perfect, but they don't have to be. This isn't, the Shaman and Navi River Journey, or I was going to say the Yeti, but he's clearly not perfect either. Or the animatronics in Rise of the Resistance. They're just differently designed, for the different time periods that they're in. And it's a pretty long ride. It's a nice, slow journey, and it's educational. I don't know. There's just something about Spaceship Earth that really appeals to me. And the park does have these top tier rides. Frozen Ever After, I really like.
Really great.
I know a lot of people don't like Frozen Ever After. They think that, they wish it would go back to Maelstrom. But I enjoyed Frozen Ever After. I like Frozen, so And then, Test Track, as I've said, is a thrill, but I just don't think it's a great ride. And we already talked about Soarin' in the context of Disney California Adventure. So these are good rides, but I think especially, maybe it's because we're getting older now, but something about Living with the Land and Spaceship Earth and this educational component, really, I find it appealing.
And with the things they're adding right now, with Ratatouille coming and the Guardians coaster coming, I hope they don't lose that, and I definitely hope they don't get rid of those, but I hope they continue to add rides like that. Last one.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
No.
So, Magic Kingdom.
That's a good one to end on.
Yeah, it is. Didn't plan that, so. Favorite ride at Magic Kingdom? Well, I do want to add, so I mentioned that Animal Kingdom was my favorite park, but that I've been trending more towards Magic Kingdom recently. Something about Magic Kingdom and the balance I'm finding in that park, it's partly because I cover the parks from a touring perspective, so most of my work is, writing about rope drop and itineraries and how the events, how different ticketed events work in the park. And I've just found that the balance at Magic Kingdom is so good. Like, if you get that perfect morning in, then you get the perfect show times, and then you go to these indoor animatronic shows to cool down in the hot Florida afternoons. You have to pop out for the parade, unfortunately. But other than that, I've really been drawn to Magic Kingdom recently. Favorite ride, I think, is still going to be People Mover. Tomorrowland Transit Authority People Mover. One of the things that's funny about the ride is it's clearly designed to be a ride that you ride early in the day. They talk you through, while you're in Tomorrowland, enjoy these rides, which hopefully by the time you're on People Mover, you've already done all these other rides.
That was a terrible road drop
Because, you'd be far behind the curve, and I don't know, maybe you have some good fast passes, but probably you've already done everything. But People Mover's great. It gets you off your feet. If you are lucky late at night, there's no line, and you can just loop it. The cast members will let you loop it. You get to see the model for Progress City, which was, kind of Walt's original vision for what would have been called
Wait,
Epcot.
is that the real model?
I don't know if it's, I think so, yeah, it's the model. They had it at Disneyland for a while, and
That's
they brought
cool.
it over. So, yeah, and it's a great way to get off your feet, and it's a great, the People Mover is great for people watching. You get to go through Space Mountain, which, if you time it well, I had this fun little trivia thing on my Instagram
so
story.
Mad I missed it.
Yeah, months ago, but if you get on People Mover at night when Space Mountain is down, you'll often get to see Space Mountain with the lights on, because they'll be working on it. If you get there with 15 minutes to go in the park day and the ride is down, then it's common that they'll just, call it a day on Space Mountain, they'll turn the lights on, and People Mover will continue to run through it. If the ride isn't completely down in the middle of the day, sometimes the lights will still be off while they work out whatever the issue is. So, but it's fun. You get to sometimes see Space Mountain with the lights on, and in general, I just love it. I mean, we always go and we just kick back and we relax on it. It's just
really nice.
It's just a fun, relaxing part of that park, and that's really big in Florida. That's big when these temperatures get really high. It's not an indoor ride, so it is still, outdoors. It's covered for the most part, but, it's not completely escaping the heat, but it is a nice way to get off your feet. And it often has a low weight. It will get high, and I feel like it's been higher recently, but that could just be me.
You're convincing everyone to run People Mover.
Could be.
People Mover is also relatively new find for at least
Personally, yeah, it's not something that we did a ton our first couple times.
Yeah, it was probably recently at the beginning of mouse hacking where we came to the Walt Disney World Resort with the intent of trying a bunch of new things, and I had never been on People Mover, and it was at least 2017.
Yeah, it might have been 2016. It was actually maybe before that.
So it's been true love ever since. Okay, my favorite ride at Magic Kingdom, again, really tough one because there's a lot of really good ones, but I have to pick Splash Mountain because one, it's a classic, not to quote the must-do, but everyone remembers their first ride on Infamous Log or whatever she says. And I do. I have really strong memories of going on that ride for the first time, being so nervous. There's so much build up throughout the ride. Throughout, it tells a full story, but if you haven't been on the ride, there's just, it's not just you go up and come down a log ride. There's a really
it's a dark ride. It's a dark ride.
Yeah, it's a dark ride on
that.
its own,
Yeah.
and it tells, you know, the story, which I didn't really follow the storyline as much originally, and that's what I like about it, is that you continue to pick up new things the older you get, and you learn, you know, you're actually escaping. Maybe it's clear, I don't know, but you're, you know, you're slipping out, you're jumping in the briar patch because you know they won't get you, and it's just really fun. It's really beautiful, and I like that it is a fun dark ride plus a thrill ride.
Yeah, I think, I mean, and it kind of wraps up the tone of a couple things that we've talked about, which is that it's taking this, you know, ostensibly simple technology of this, you know, log flume ride where you go around a little thing, you go up and you come down and you get splash, and it's taking that to the next level, and it's adding the storyline on top of that. And yeah, I think the seeing the twist at the end, or understanding the twist at the end, that and I would say that this is a spoiler, but the ride's kind of old at this point, so, but that, you know, Brer Rabbit is telling Brer Fox, don't throw me in the briar patch, which is reverse psychology to get Brer Fox to throw him there, and when he throws him in there, you dive down there with him, and then you see, you know, after you've gone down into the briar patch and you've gotten all wet, you're passing by and you see that Brer Fox and Brer Bear can't really navigate the thickets. So that's what's going on in that ride, and it's a great little twist, and if you've never noticed it before, you know, it's an aha moment where you kind of understand what this ride is doing, and that makes me a pretty big fan of it. It's, you know, I like these tricks as we kind of talked about. So I think Splash Mountain's another good one. I will say, so on the list, we do have People Mover and Splash Mountain at, well, this is for the whole resort though.
Oh, okay.
So we have People Mover and Splash Mountain at 9 and 10. Ahead of them on the best rides at Walt Disney World, I do have Seven Dwarfs Mine Train,
Ooh, yeah.
which
also great ride.
yeah, exactly. I mean, there's absolutely no reason that this is. I think that's fine. Putting it ahead of those other two rides. It's got great animatronics. It's you know, another good combination dark ride / roller coaster. Yeah, but it's longer than most of the roller coasters. So, and the, you know, fun tilting vehicles and everything are great. And then also Haunted Mansion, which we already talked about in the context of Disneyland. So we don't have to talk about that one again.
Also, Enchanted Ticket Room is great attraction.
Yeah, if you open it up to all attractions, then I think the conversation gets even a little more difficult. I think that's it. So we'll be putting this on YouTube and, you know, adding some images to it. Probably maybe cropping out. I don't know. We'll figure out what happened with it. It looked like the signal was dropping. I hope I didn't lose everyone at that time.
Yeah, we've just been talking to ourselves for 40
Yeah,
minutes.
exactly. But either way, so thank you to everyone who came in to watch, and we'll be doing these. Maybe we'll do another one. I don't know. This was fun though, so you know, we'll hop back in and talk more. And they won't always be, you know, fun topics. And some of them we'll do some planning ones probably. Talk about Fast Pass and Rope Drop and all that kind of stuff, if we keep doing them. So, but thanks to everyone who tuned in today.
Thanks.
Hope you had a good time. And
See you later.
see you later. Yeah, see you on Instagram.
See you real soon.